Patricia Arquette as young lovers on the run in True Romance. Mothers and daughters fight for their future in Amy Tan's The Joy Luck Club. And safecracker Kim Basinger must rob one more bank in The Real McCoy.
Married man, buddy.
Chantilly.
Married man, you want to say hello to my better half? Come here.
Hi, this is Alabama Whirly.
Oh, how you doing, Alabama Whirly?
Christian Slater is on a cross-country run from mobsters along with his new wife, a former hooker played by Patricia Arquette in True Romance. One of 5 new films we'll be reviewing this week on Siskel Ebert, along with new movies starring Kim Basinger and Brad Pitt. I'm Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune.
And I'm Roger Ebert of the Chicago Sun-Times. Our first movie is True Romance, and this is a movie that sort of resembles an explosion down at the old movie genre factory. The screenplay by Quentin Tarantino cobbles together bits and pieces from every possible kind of male action movie and views them all through a focus of adolescent lust, macho bravado, and lurid stereotyping. The result is totally absurd and kind of fun. The film stars Christian Slater as a loner who works in a comic book store, and one day a soft-core dream walks into his life. Played by Patricia Arquette, she's a sexy blonde who dresses like a Playboy cartoon. It's love at first sight.
Do you have a fella?
Ask me that one a little bit later.
Slater is occasionally visited by the ghost of Elvis Presley, played here by Val Kilmer. The King knows Slater is worried about his girlfriend's lifestyle. She was a hooker, although of course only for 4 nights, but she's still in danger from her vicious pimp.
I do want to kill him, but I don't want to spend the rest of my life in jail.
Hey, man, I don't blame you.
Thought I'd get away with it.
Get away with it? Killing's the hard part. Getting away with it, that's easy. Cops will throw a party, man. As long as you're not at the scene of the crime, smoking gun in your hand, you get away with it.
Charged up by Elvis's pep talk, Slater takes on the pimp, played here by Gary Oldman.
Looky here, Charlie. None of this bull's necessary. I don't got no hold over Alabama, huh? I just trying to lend a girl a helping hand.
The supporting cast includes not 1 but 2 great character actors, Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper, as the plot thickens.
Dirty little whore found out we were going to do some business because your son, the cowboy, and his flame, came in the room blazing and didn't stop till they were pretty sure everybody was dead.
What are you talking about?
Talking about a massacre. They snatched my narcotics, hightailed it out of there.
True Romance was directed by Tony Scott, who made Top Gun and Beverly Hills Cop 2, but the real trademark on the script belongs to Quentin Tarantino, whose Reservoir Dogs made a big splash last year. True Romance is like a case study of the inflamed fantasies of violent, stupid, amoral, gun-loving, sexually obsessed teenagers. And on that level, which is admittedly a fairly low level, it is well-made and very entertaining. It tells the kind of story that a lot of teenage boys think they would like to live through before they grow up and begin to develop average intelligence, of course.
Now, I can't tell. Are you recommending the film?
I'm recommending the film as an example of exactly what it is, which is a stupid teenage boy's fantasy.
Yeah, well, I didn't care for it, and I guess on the same basis. I thought that it really was, as you said, completely disorganized, all thrown together, and we have a picture coming up later in this show.
Yes, we do.
That has many of the same kinds of story elements, but they've been organized in a fashion that is more compelling than this.
I agree with what you're saying.
This is really, I think it's kind of sloppy and dumb and not fun.
I think I'm going to agree with you about that picture that's coming up later in the show, but in the meantime, speaking of this picture, I found that it just had an energy level, a kind of manic excitement, a colorful quality to it, and performances by Patricia Arquette and Christian Slater that were fun in their own way as an example of what they are.
Listen, it didn't have a manic intensity to it because it wasn't sustained. It was choppy as heck.
I think it was an entertaining picture.
Not for me at all. Okay, our next movie and our next film is The Ballad of Little Jo, a pretty effective drama about a society woman in the Old West who masquerades as a man in order to stay alive. Susie Amos plays the fake cowboy who, as a woman traveling alone, has been betrayed and sold into slavery. Now she's run away and pretends to be a man as she enters a Western bar.
We don't like dudes around here.
We had a dude dropped in here the other day, had on black and yellow stockings.
Striped. We run them out of town, barefoot.
I wonder if dude there is an Old West code word for homosexual. Later in the same town, Susie Amos gets a lesson in how to smoke a pipe from Ian McKellen.
No. As you smoke, close your eyes. Go on, close your eyes. Think about your future.
The centerpiece of the film occurs when Susie Amos decides to reveal herself as a woman to a Chinese laborer, David Chung, at her cabin. Each of these characters is an outcast in Old Western society, and together they find comfort and freedom and potential danger in each other's arms.
I want peace for the last years of my life. You found it living as a man. I found it living with you.
They have a highly charged relationship together, and it's very effective. Actually, the script of The Ballad of Little Jo is kind of clever because it inverts the natural order of things and renders illicit and taboo, if you think about it, a love affair between a man and a woman. For a moment, these heterosexuals are outcasts and forced to live a lie. It's kind of interesting to see this period story with modern eyes. Susie Amos is impressive in her role. The Ballad of Little Jo is a modest film with modest goals, but I think it does tell a very good story.
Yeah, it held my interest, and that's despite the fact that I never really, truly believed that anyone would think that Susie Amos was a man.
Well,
I mean,
there's the issue of going to the bathroom in the Old West.
Yeah,
makes it
you kind of have to give the movie that and then move on from there.
Yes.
And then what's interesting is this commentary on the Old West, which in this film comes across as a very brutal, dirty, uncomfortable, violent, and totally pleasant place, not like in the great old Westerns. And so these two people, the Chinese man and the woman, both have to play roles in order to survive. The Chinese man has to kind of do the Chinese version of Uncle Tommy to all the people in town, and the woman has to pretend to be a man because the society is so limiting in the freedom that it will give its members.
It's a very smart comment on the Old West, the story that is not told, the woman's story, the outcast story.
You're right.
Good.
Coming up next, Brad Pitt and Juliette Lewis are on the road to some big trouble in California.
Arkansas, wherever the hell Arkansas is, there it is. And then we can drop down into Texas, and from there it's a straight shot right into
California.
California, and we don't stop until we hit the ocean.
David Duchovny and Michelle Forbes play a writer and a photographer there, making plans to tour the sites of American mass murders and maybe write a book about them in the opening scene from California. That's California spelled with a K, and this is one of the smartest and most powerful movies about violence that I've seen in a long time. But the middle-class couple needs someone to go along and share the driving and the gas, and it's their bad luck that they wind up with the last people on Earth that they should ever want to meet.
Would you just smile and let me do the talking?
Let's just keep going.
You lighten up?
How many times are you going to tell me
It
that?
takes me, Dale.
Lighten up.
That's Brad Pitt as a parole violator who has already committed murder just the night before, and Juliette Lewis as his girlfriend, who is none too bright and who gets beat up a lot.
You like to order some breakfast?
No, I won't be having breakfast this morning, thank you.
Want some of this? Finish.
Thanks.
Which read?
Sex, art, and the American culture.
No, I've never read that.
The performances by both Brad Pitt and Juliette Lewis are absolutely brilliant in this movie. They capture a certain kind of aggressive ignorance that's almost charming until it starts to get very, very scary. The yuppie writer is sort of fascinated in an eerie kind of way by the other guy's casual familiarity with violence and firearms, and when he confesses he's never shot a gun, Pitt gives him his chance.
Go on, shoot it.
No, I never did this.
Shoot
I don't know how to do it.
Yeah, you can do it.
It's an interesting coincidence, which I guess you were referring to earlier, that True Romance and California, two of the most violent films of the year to date, or for a couple of years maybe, are both on the same show, because True Romance is a movie that has obviously never given a moment's serious thought to the meaning of violence. It's just an entertaining exercise in bloody comic melodrama. And California is very wise, very thoughtful, and a whole lot scarier. The interplay of personalities among the four people in that car is fascinating as the writer and photographer find out it's one thing to write a book about murder, and it's quite another thing to find yourself trapped with a killer. This is a great movie that deserves comparison with Badlands, Taxi Driver, and Bad Lieutenant. I really liked it.
I liked it not as much as you, Roger. I had I liked the four characters are absolutely indelible.
Yes,
I'll start
they
with
are.
compliments.
Yes.
Absolutely indelible, and I always love road pictures. I mean, I just think it's a great vehicle for movies, and this is a good road picture in that sense. Particularly Brad Pitt.
Great performance. Yes, it is.
Totally credible. Doesn't make a false move there at all.
That's right.
Speaking about one false move, which I think you have seen the picture as violent and as interesting, and I think even more informative than just last year about the subject. My only complaint would be at the end, the printout of what they learn when it's said, and it isn't anything we don't know going in.
That's what I liked at the end. This guy, this yuppie writer.
Yeah. He didn't know that beforehand, Roger?
No, he didn't learn anything. It's not that he didn't know it before, he still doesn't know it. He still is, he's looked into, the heart of darkness, and he is still casting it in media terms or turning it into his own way of dealing with it.
You think that that was written? You think that was written then in an ironic?
Well, the movie is so smart in every other scene that I believe the ending was written just exactly the way it was supposed to be.
I think it was written dumb, and I also didn't believe.
First of all, if you're going to tell people not to see this movie because of the ending, that'd be a real loss.
I spent the last minute and a half saying how good the film is.
Okay, fine.
And I even said,
well then, and I'll spend the last 10 seconds saying that in addition to Gene telling you about the rest of the film, I think the ending is good too. So
we disagree on the ending, and that's all. Coming up next, the new film is based on the best-selling book, The Joy Luck Club, a drama about how the sins of the mothers are passed down to their daughters.
Hard-working she was.
And the excellent dishes she cooked. Even better than mine.
And how beautiful she sang. Don't you remember?
How can a daughter not know her own mother?
A young Chinese-American woman learns about her mother from her mother's dear friends in the Joy Luck Club. Amy Tan's best-selling novel about growing up female and Chinese and the way that Chinese women are totally dominated by a male-oriented culture and how that results in mothers controlling their daughters in some very unhealthy ways. What I like about this film is for all of the love that's shown between the mothers and daughters in this picture, it's also unblinking in showing the pain. This is a strong film. At the center of the story is June, played by Ming Na Wen, whose late mother was friends with 3 other women in a tightly knit mahjong group called the Joy Luck Club. She thinks of these women as her aunts, especially now that her own mother has died. And the women bring her news of a letter from her long-lost older half-sisters who are still back in China.
It says, see here, you must come to China and meet them and tell them all about their mother.
What could I tell them? I didn't know anything about her.
We also get the stories of these aunts and their restrictive lives in China. Auntie Lindo had an arranged marriage. And then the action switches to modern day, and we see how the once enslaved Auntie Lindo now chased at the freedom of her own, more Americanized daughter. Sai Chin plays Auntie Lindo. Tamlin Tomita is her daughter, Waverly.
This not so good. Only leftover strips. See? Fur to shot. No long hairs.
How can you criticize a gift? He gave this to me with all his heart.
That's why I told you. Not so good.
This generational battle is played out in one moving scene after another of love mixed with anger.
You don't know. You don't know the power you have over me. One word from you, one look, and I'm 4 years old again, crying myself to sleep. Because nothing I do can ever ever please you.
There are many other equally moving scenes in the Joy Luck Club. As the movie unfolds, it turns into one long outpouring of intergenerational passions. I think the film is going to be of interest to more than just Chinese Americans. We live, if you think about it, in a nation of hyphenated immigrants, many of whom have a love-hate affair with the old country and the old ways. This is a fine movie directed by the talented Wayne Wang, and I think it's for all of the people with hyphenates in their names, and that means a whole lot of us.
Yes, it does. This is a long movie, and it's like a world unto itself. Having really never seen in a mainstream America movie very much about Chinese Americans or Asian Americans in general, they're a neglected minority group in this country. We now get an abundance of characterization and stories. Each one of those aunties has her own story, and we find out about 4 different paths to the members of the Joy Luck Club, how each one of them grew up and how they came out of China and came to the United States and how their experiences affected their daughters. And it's wonderfully photographed, it's well acted. The stories, each one is fascinating. I heard a lot of snuffling in the audience. Well, it's kind of a hanky type.
Oh, I think it's going to be, I mean, I can't imagine a woman not wanting to see this, a mother or a daughter. Those kinds of issues are all there, and I think they're universal. Plus, if you know someone who is Chinese, if you have, I mean, you almost want to see it with them to say, is this really the, you know, they carry an enormous legacy.
You know, oddly enough, from the stories I've heard from members of other ethnic groups, people who came in from Europe, a lot of these stories are surprisingly similar. Coming up next, Kim Basinger is a high-tech bank robber known as the Real McCoy.
You're my hero. What do you want, my handbag?
It's like all the plagues in the history of the world got squeezed.
Pretty routine caper thriller named The Real McCoy, and starring Kim Basinger, is a skilled bank robber who serves a prison term and is then blackmailed into going back to her old profession. Her nemesis, played here by Terrence Stamp, and her parole officer, played by Gaylord Sartain, threaten her unless she cooperates.
You know, some people just won't respond unless you apply a little pressure.
After the bad guys kidnap her son, Basinger goes along, masterminding a complicated robbery of the biggest bank in Atlanta.
What's going on? McCoy.
You believe this?
I don't believe it.
This is unbelievable.
Get us out of here.
A AAA bank. Jack, I told you, you can't break into a AAA bank, but you wouldn't listen to me, would you? He wouldn't listen to me.
There wasn't anything in The Real McCoy I hadn't seen done better before. The movie centers around a high-tech bank robbery with all sorts of complicated strategies to outsmart the alarm systems, but the strategies all seem borrowed from other caper movies, and the human relationships in the film were so cut and dried they were hardly believable. I did like Kim Basinger's presence in the movie. It was fresh and sincere, and it deserved a better film. Yeah,
I mean, she's cute and she's fun to look at, obviously,
yes,
and but no, she gets no support when she isn't doing any of the robberies. That's the really weakest part of the film. The robberies is exciting, but you're right, it's a film like the Anderson tapes. Did the same sort of thing. I mean, that was in an apartment
or Hot
building.
Rock or Top Cappy, or we could just name great caper movies, and this one just borrows from them and not very well.
Not very well at all. Coming up next, our video picks of the week, 2 small gems from earlier in the year that you probably missed in theaters. You get a second chance now on home video.
Siskel Ebert's video pick of the week, brought to you by Orville Redenbacher, the first and last name in popcorn.
Earlier this year, Roger and I raved about 2 small films, one set in Mexico, the other in part in Arctic Canada. But millions of people ignored our advice. You have a second chance now to get it straight. Each has been released on home video. First is Map of the Human Heart, a beautiful love story that spans continents. A young part Eskimo lad falls in love with a young part Indian woman and follows her over time halfway around the world. I think it's the year's best love story.
I'm no ghost. I never thought I'd see you again.
Also available now on home video is El Mariachi, a rousing adventure story about a mild-mannered guitar player whose guitar case is mistaken for that of a hired killer's, which contains an automatic weapon. El Mariachi and Map of the Human Heart are video picks of the week. Now let's recap the movies we reviewed on this show. A split vote on True Romance, which I thought was an overwrought, mannered, violence-filled love story. Roger thought the same thing, but he still found it entertaining. 2 thumbs up for The Ballad of Little Jo, with Susie Amos masquerading as a cowboy. 2 more thumbs up for California, about an investigative study that gets out of hand of a serial killer. The year's only 2/3 over, but Roger thinks it's one of the 10 best films of the year. I like the 2, but not the ending. 2 more thumbs up, way up for The Joy Luck Club, Wayne Wang's powerful drama of Chinese-American women and their mothers. A film filled with one great scene and fine performance after another. Finally, 2 thumbs down for The Real McCoy, the uneven bank heist movie with Kim Basinger that falls apart when she isn't being a thief. California and The Joy Luck Club are the ones we like.
Okay, that's it for this week. Next week we'll be back with Martin Scorsese's new film, The Age of Innocence, a story of star-crossed lovers featuring Daniel Day-Lewis, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Winona Ryder. And also Striking Distance, starring Bruce Willis as a maverick cop tracking a serial killer and Sarah Jessica Parker as his partner. That's next week, and until then, the balcony is closed.
Klondike ice cream bars, rich creamy ice cream with a chocolatey coating. What would you do for a Klondike? Fashion Bug for the latest in junior, Mrs., plus even girls and men's fashions. 1,200 stores coast to coast. Fashion Bug fits your life. St. Ives Swiss Formula Collagen Elastin Lotion, made to work in the harsh Swiss Alps. St. Ives Swiss Formula relieves dry skin instantly, naturally. Introducing new light walkers from Easy Spirit. Soft, flexible leather combined with real arch support, plus all the cushioning of an athletic shoe. No ordinary shoe performs quite like them from Easy Spirit.